So I think it's definitely time that we talk about artificial intelligence as a community. And especially if you are a woman, especially if you're a single woman of any age. But in this video, I'm going to talk about artificial intelligence as I see it in terms of women expanding their economic imagination, women leveraging the skills that they actually have. And if you are a woman, for example, over 45, whereby in the past, I know from experience in my corporate work, it was much easier to manage a woman out of the workplace, particularly when she got to menopausal age and beyond. And I think that there's a real opportunity here when it comes to artificial intelligence more generally, okay, for us to think about, okay, the way we can leverage artificial intelligence. Now, the first part of this video, I'm going to talk about the obvious concerns around artificial intelligence. Next, I'm going to talk about, though, how I believe women need to be able to hold two truths at once. And third, I'm going to talk about some of the practical ways that actually women can be using artificial intelligence. This is important. This won't be the last time I talk about it. At some point in the future, I will be doing a limited research series over on Substack, okay, about artificial intelligence and what I believe single women need to understand about artificial intelligence. The first thing I'm going to say is that I've been using artificial intelligence now for about 3 years, maybe 3.5 years, okay? And I use it because obviously I'm self-employed. I do work for myself. I've seen some fundamental differences and changes over the last 3 years around artificial tools, the way I use them, etc. So I'm always very upfront and honest. I actually use artificial intelligence. You will come to find out as we talk about this, and this won't be the only time I talk about this, how and why I use it in the ways I choose to use it. But coming back around more generally, there is obviously, valid concerns and opinions about artificial intelligence as a technology and the way it is impacting the environment and the way it is also impacting places in the global south. There's a brilliant book that I have talked about so many times when I've gone live on TikTok before, which is called Empire of AI. And this is a book written by a technology journalist called Karen Howe. Very interesting. If you look her up, even on YouTube, she's done a number of interviews where she talks about the book, why she wrote it, and what the book argues. There is no doubt whatsoever that artificial intelligence, as with a lot of big tech, is problematic in terms of its impact, who it exploits, the resources it uses to be developed and run. That is not to be denied at all. It's a brilliant book, Empire of AI. The author argues that it's a type of colonization. Very interesting, very fascinating to understand how artificial intelligence is impacting people in a real way, but also impacting us socially, economically. The other thing that we cannot fail to mention is the fact that, these systems are built on top of existing human bias. And so, of course, they will amplify bias. Now, one of the things that I probably haven't talked about enough is actually my corporate background. I've been working for myself for the last 10 years. I will be sharing more about that because I do get questions. I know some of you are interested in my background and what I do as my day job, as it were. But I am a trained facilitator, coach, and strategist. I work in the corporate sector, specifically in corporate organizations. A lot of my work over the last 6 years has really been focused on cultural transformation, talent development, and talent strategies as well. And so, of course, artificial intelligence has made up a large part of I'd say, client inquiries over the last few years, more specifically in relation, of course, to talent attraction and recruitment, because there's a number of artificial intelligence tools in that space, and they continue to emerge. And they promise to help employers be able to recruit more efficiently. Some of them even promise that, the recruitment will be more diverse. So a lot of my work has actually been in advising corporate organizations, so operating boards, C-suites, etc., when they are talking about whether and how and if they adopt and integrate artificial intelligence intelligence, not only really into their recruitment process, but also recruitment processes, sorry, but also into learning and development, into HR departments, into skill development and kind of company-wide use for employees. So we talk a lot about a usage policy, how you train people, what safeguards and parameters you put around artificial intelligence in a workplace environment. So I've spoken at conferences, etc., before on this. And what I want you to understand is that, yes, there are very real risks, as with any technology, that we have to be aware of. And what I observe a lot of the time is there are women who are not opting in at all. So they are not learning how to use AI at all. Some of that I know is because of maybe time and prioritization, but actually a lot of it from my observation and conversations I'm having is connected very much to how you may feel about artificial intelligence in terms of ethics. Now, here's my thing, and this is what I really want to share with you, because I do think that women from girlhood are conditioned and programmed to think in an altruistic, charitable way and to care about the world. And I'm not saying that that is not important. What I do want to say to you, though, is a few things. Okay? Now more than ever is the time for women to lean in and amplify skills they already have or develop new skills by mastering an artificial intelligence tool. Now, there's all different types of artificial intelligence, and generally shorthand when we're talking about AI, we are talking about generative forms of AI like a chat GPT, like a Claude, like a Gemini, a DeepSeek. There are lots of companies, there are some major companies that have artificial intelligence tools that you and I as everyday people can create an account and use these tools. And I'm telling you, from based on my experience in that corporate environment, specifically when it comes to talent, cultural transformation, leadership development, it is important that you master how to use an artificial intelligence tool. I understand some of the concerns that women have about it. I mean, even when you look at the fact that some, bad faith predatory people are using artificial intelligence to amplify gender bias, to do some very egregious things to pictures of women, video footage of women, etc. I mean, just as a side note, one of the most popular types of artificial intelligence are AI girlfriends. In fact, I see quite a few women, and it's funny, I was having this conversation the other day and I was chuckling and saying, I love to make money and I love to be creative. I do draw the line at certain things, me personally. But one of the things I've observed is that there are women, and then there's men doing it, but there's also women now who are creating AI avatars and creating these OnlyFans-esque websites where they are literally, I'm telling you, they are sweeping money off the floor with this stuff, right? The way artificial intelligence can be used essentially to monetize male lust. Now, my point here is I'm not encouraging you necessarily to go and do something like that. What I am saying, though, is that there is a real, I would say, impetus here. Okay. And the gap between those who know how to use AI well and those who are just starting is actually widening. And so I would say that right about now, you can start to learn how to use any one of these tools and catch up because new features are being released all of the time. But I do believe probably sooner than you think, the gap between those who've iterated, experimented and tested on these tools and learned how to do that and gotten to a point of being very proficient in the use of these tools is widening. And another reason why this is important is that there's never been a time in history where collectively women have been conscious and had agency to leverage an emerging system of power. You've heard me talk about systems of power many times. I've talked about culture, family, the media, social media, religion. These are all systems of power. Artificial intelligence is another system of power. And the difference this time around in this here 2026 is that there are enough adult women who are conscious, who have agency, who can choose to leverage this power as it emerges. You see, we've been excluded historically from all manner of other systems of power. Even when you think about the fact that, let's say, for example, social media, system of power, but what it has also done is it has democratized access to money and customers. And if you look at, for example, economy, influencer marketing, any type of online business, quite frankly, there are a hell of a lot of women in these spaces, and they have been able to unlock money on levels that we wouldn't have been able to do it in previous years, especially if you were still only navigating the corporate environment with the gatekeepers that exist in those environments. Social media changed that massively. A stay-at-home mum, a young woman, somebody sitting in their attic, someone using their mobile phone. The amount of money I've made off this phone hooked up to Wi-Fi using my cellular data. I want you to understand that it's every so often that an emerging power is here. Never before, I don't believe, where women can have our own bank accounts, we have our own skills, we also have social media, we can communicate with each other globally, we can learn from each other, we can pass notes and resources. I am afraid to say that opting out entirely, which by the way is going to be very difficult because actually artificial intelligence is being integrated actively into so many of the everyday apps and tools that we use anyway. But what I am saying is be proactive. Think about how you can amplify your skills and your talents and your strengths, and how you can leverage artificial intelligence to aid you in your career, to aid you when it comes to making money. Opting out entirely, I do not believe is the smartest thing to do. And on this channel, I mean, I talk a lot about money. I'm going to continue to talk a lot about money. But undoubtedly, using artificial intelligence is going to be able to support you. There are no gatekeepers here. And I think as women, we need to get better at simply being able to hold these multiple truths at the same time. Does AI have an impact on the environment? Yes. Are some people being exploited? Yes, as with any system of power. And I understand, how you may be thinking, I'm going to, dig my heels in. I think that will be a mistake as time goes on. I genuinely do. Now, as somebody who's worked for myself for 10 years, and like I say, my actual day work, as it were, is doing this kind of systemic, strategic work inside corporate organizations. My bread and butter, love doing it. And when I tell you, okay, the stuff that we are able to see unlocked in productivity, engagement, when people are able to leverage an artificial intelligence tool, even me, myself, and my own business, one of the things that I've been asked to do time and time again since coming online and sharing my thoughts and ideas publicly is write a book. I've probably got a few books in me, maybe several over the next however many years. Now, with artificial intelligence, I can self-publish a hell of a lot quicker. I can use artificial intelligence to design a book cover. Now, obviously, it's not my frameworks and my IP is mine, but I can use artificial intelligence for the other elements of self-publishing that would have cost a hell of a lot more before. I was talking to an author earlier this week, and she said to me, the first thing she asked me is, are you going to write a book? And I said to her, I probably will. I've got a few ideas for books that I would want to write. And she told me herself she's a twice published author. And she said the first book that she published cost her over $10,000. The second book, just over $1,000. A lot of the barriers to entry are coming down, and women need to be leveraging these opportunities. When we are on here talking about economic advancement, being able to have more economic resource to hand that you own, a lot of this is going to be inside of your creativity and your innovation and leveraging tools like artificial intelligence. Information and knowledge now is far less valuable than it used to be. Why? Because it's freely available. I tell you what isn't freely available though, which I know there are talented women in this community who have this in abundance. Judgment, skills that have been developed in terms of life experience and professional expertise and taste. Skills, judgment, and taste. These are the three things that are becoming more and more valuable in general, whether you are working for an employer or you are indeed independent like myself and you are providing services in exchange for money. The value of these things is still up here. Now, what do you think happens when you leverage artificial intelligence tools and you're able to package your IP. You're able to negotiate more confidently. You're able to get rid of a lot of the administrative, repetitive work that you may do in your day job, in your career, or in your business. This is why I alluded earlier at the start of this video to the fact that one of the things I see very clearly as somebody who's been involved in cultural transformation and talent development in organizations for 10 odd years is that if you are a woman over 50, and look, this could apply to any gender, but in this community, we are predominantly made up of women. Okay, if you're a woman over 50 and you are ever worried about, well, where will I find value? Where can I add value? Let me tell you something. Your judgment, your skill, and your taste, plus artificial intelligence, that is going to set you apart. And this is the thing, right? When you think about the way social media was discussed at one point, it was often portrayed as a youth game, right? It was something that young people were on, even though Facebook is a different platform entirely in terms of the age demographics of the people who are users on there. My point is, generally speaking, a lot of older people felt like social media more generally wasn't for them, and that they were later to the party in terms of learning social media and how to use it. Now you see, I mean, on TikTok, there are loads of over 50s, etc. on TikTok. My point is, though, it was very much presented as a youth, you had a youthful advantage, not with artificial intelligence. In my opinion, the output of artificial intelligence is directly impacted by the quality of the input. What you get out is impacted by the quality of the input. Now, who can have good quality input? Which people have solved problems over and over again manually? Which people know the risks, the liabilities, what happens if we do A, well, C can happen. Actually, we shouldn't do D, E, and F because otherwise we might get A. It's usually people who've lived longer. Yeah, I'm not talking about just anyone who's grown old with age. I'm talking about people who are mature, who have some life experience, who have some wisdom. People who have got more professional expertise. You are the people. And so when you have solved a problem over and over again, if you understand what the output should be or even could be, because you can solve some of the friction usually that occurs in these processes, in these strategies, you are primarily, I believe, poised to leverage artificial intelligence. And when you do that from a strategic career point of view, you are going to set yourself apart, regardless of age. The other thing is that as AI becomes even more and more integrated into our workplace environments and into the companies that we work with and for, they are going to need to create new roles for people who will supervise the artificial intelligence. Because look, a valid criticism is that we can't just allow this technology to run free, unfettered, unsupervised. So then some human beings are going to have to be involved in that. And do not mistake that to mean that it's only going to be people who are technologists and coders and engineers. No, like I said, how can you spot a problem if you've never solved that problem before? And so there are definitely going to be new roles developed that are specifically around artificial intelligence, and your combination of judgment, skill, and expertise, in addition to knowledge of how to use the artificial intelligence, is going to be needed. This is why I am bullish on this. Women need to be using artificial intelligence. And the fact of the matter is, if you believe you are an ethical person, you can do that. Opting out entirely, I don't think is going to serve you in the end. And you can be conflicted. You can be resistant. You can be disappointed that it's coming to this, and still, I suggest you start using it. Now, my advice is always to start by using one particular tool or platform, like a ChatGPT or a Claude or a Gemini, whatever takes your fancy, and experiment, test, play with it, learn how to use it, learn what things you can do with it or not. Okay, that accumulative time it's going to take you is going to hold you in good stead. It is going to mean, like I say, with time, you have aggregated these skills and the experience of every time opening the app or opening the browser, you're used to what you're seeing. You know how to do this, you know how to do that. I cannot emphasize to you how important this is from a career point of view, but also from a money point of view. Jobs will be created in this area. I believe jobs will be kept Okay, if you are a stakeholder who understands how to use artificial intelligence, if you're in business, let me give you one example just for this video, because I will do a series on this, like I said, because I feel that this is so important. I think that we need to see, whilst you think you're seeing the bigger picture, there's more to it than you realize. One of the things that I have done, so for example, I received some lovely emails and messages around the invisible contract audit workbook. I created that workbook based off of my IP in 30 minutes. Now, let me walk you through exactly how, and I'm not good at I don't do any editing of these videos, so I'm so sorry. I can't show you on screen how exactly I did it, but let me talk you through it very simply, okay? I knew that I wanted to create a workbook out of the invisible contract framework, which is completely free to download. You can find it here somewhere in the link. But I wanted to create a workbook that walked you through that framework, helped you to reflect in yourself about what invisible contracts you have, which ones are governing your life, and gave you some exercises. One of the reasons why I really like that workbook is because at the beginning, I take you through what invisible contracts are, what systems of power are, self-authority, how you relocate the self-authority, what punishments society subject us to as women, how can we think about those punishments. This is before we even get to the workbook. I was rather proud of that piece, actually. Anyway, so what I did is I had a folder on my laptop where over the years I have obviously stored all of my reports, my strategies, my presentations, things like that, all in one place. I connected that folder to the AI tool that I was using. And in this instance, it was Claude. I connected Claude to that folder. The folder had all of the files. And what I said to Claude using language, I didn't even type anything. I pressed the button and I spoke to my laptop and I said, hey, I want to create a workbook that women can use that will allow them to identify their invisible contracts. The workbook needs to contain exercises for each of the invisible contracts. It needs to have a space for them to write their answers. And it also needs to have an introduction, which explains, and then I listed the things it needs to explain to the reader. Within 6 minutes max, the AI tool connected to the folder where all of that information was. And it showed me an outline of the workbook because I asked it to show me an outline first. I looked at the outline, I tweaked it, adjusted certain areas and certain activities I wanted it to finalize. So we did that. Then I said, go and create the workbook. Send it to me as a PDF with a front cover. And that's what it did. Within 30 minutes, an idea was tangible, material. I uploaded that workbook into a sales page, as it were. I described the workbook, put a price on it, and put the link in my bios. Those sell by themselves. Entirely by themselves, and sometimes I forget to even mention them, to be honest. The only place that I am actually probably quite diligent about mentioning the workbook exists is on Substack. But as you can tell in my video stuff, a lot of the time I forget to mention them, which is bad on my part, right? Because it's a brilliant workbook. I get emails from women all over the world saying to me, I am looking at this workbook with my daughter right now. I'm talking to my granddaughter. I'm talking to my niece about these things. Thank you. Really enjoyed this. I am telling you, I'm just one person. You have judgment, you have skill, you have taste. You do. And there's something that you could be teaching someone, sharing with someone. Now, I'm not suggesting you have to start a business. What I am saying, though, is in your job even, there's a way that you can demonstrate additional value because of the fact that you have learned how to use an artificial intelligence tool. It is that simple. It is that simple. As you know, one of the things that I teach all the time is single women and money. Okay. And I have two major bundles that you can purchase. One of them is how to learn how to sell for single women. I teach you how I do what I do, which is sell to corporate organizations and sell online. Those are the two things I know how to sell. Okay. The other thing is really about how you think about money. So it's slightly different because it's actually about your way of thinking about money as a woman, as a single woman. Now, both of those, I created the pages that they sit on within 10 minutes each. I said, this is what I want to tell women when they land on that page. This is what I want them to know. Okay, I want them to know who this is for, why this is so important, and what they will get inside. 10 minutes each, pop them up. One day I got the Claude AI tool to write the sales page for the sales course. 10 minutes. Within 48 hours, 3 of them had sold. The next day after, another one. When I tell you, okay, this is important stuff. If you have knowledge, skills, and actually more so, it's got to be skills. I would say skills, judgment, wisdom, and you know some stuff. You could be leveraging this in your career. You can leverage this if you are, for example, a contractor, a freelancer, or you're running your own business. I cannot encourage you enough. This is why I will not stop talking about this. I understand it's a contentious topic for many. I do. I get it. And at the same time, this is an emerging system of power that can absolutely reduce the distance between you and additional income, or you and the next job, you and more ease in your existing job. We as women, we need to lean into this. We must lean in, because there's never been a time in history where collectively we have been this conscious, have had this much agency. Now is not the time to withdraw entirely on the grounds of, very valid. I always say this, they are valid things. However, you are going to be getting left behind. And actually, you could be leveraging and amplifying the skills that you actually have. So happy to answer any questions in the comments about how I use AI. Like I said, I am not an editing girl. Okay, these are all one-take videos. I record, let it process, I download it, and then upload it into YouTube. So I am so sorry. Maybe one day I'll edit stuff so you can see stuff on screen, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you've got in the comments. And if you are looking to learn how to sell, this is what I teach, then check out the link in the bio, the link in the comments, and check out that sales course. Okay, see you soon.